Good evening. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the On the Ball podcast. Here we are again after last week's Stuart Webber roundup. It's back to the football. What a game we've got to talk about from Saturday. We've got Ben on. We've got Zoe on. I don't know how much more there is to say than that. Obviously, we're all very excited. I hate this part, so let's just kick it off, shall we? Hello and welcome to On the Ball, the Norwich City podcast that can't wait to see what the set-piece team has in store for our next corner routine. So, no Webber, no worries. 2 wins under 2 different sporting directors for Norwich City, who are cruising up the table to 13th as the form side in the division in the last 2 games, and who are now just 5 points off the playoffs again. Get those tickets booked for your hotels in Wembley in May. The only slight problem at the moment is that little thing about them not being very good. The panel will give their expert thoughts on whether anyone will do right now, even if it does mean being out footballed by the team 23rd in the championship. And we'll do the now routine reading of our Wagner out-ometers. And life begins at 30. I'll get excited at some starting 11 age stats that no one else really cares about. And more pressingly, we'll ponder if saddling a team with a load of old blokes can't really count as succession planning. I'm Steve Sanders, AKA at NCFCnumbers, and after last week's marathon podcast, like the cabinet, our panel has had a reshuffle. We'll let them draw lots over who gets to be David Cameron. But in the meantime, I'm delighted to welcome back a fresh-faced and excited pair of pundits. First up, after nobly letting others take on the Stuart Webber discussion last week, and then valiantly stepping up to the plate late on to discuss the pap that we had to witness on Saturday. She's the podcasting hero we need, if not the one we deserve. It's Zoe Morgan. Zoe, how are you doing?
Hello, Steve. I am good, thank you. And I'm now thinking less about which of us is David Cameron and more about who last week was Suella Braverman, which is a bigger question.
Well, Michael does like to stand on dogs, so he doesn't. I'm just waiting for him to respond to that on our WhatsApp chat. Yeah, well, we'll let them all off by saying none of them is Braverman-esque, unless that's the kind of thing that they go for. I don't want to assume anyone's political views. Anyway, sitting, waiting in the wings is an OTB OG, by which I mean original, although I'd realise that now sounds like we made own goal having you on. But for a debut appearance this season and with a tribute to Norwich City starting level with an audio mic that sounds like it's about 30 years old, Ben Mouncer. Ben, great to have you back on. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. It's great to be back on. And if anyone is David Cameron, surely it's me, right? I've not been around for ages and I'm just coming in to try and save things. I don't know. Do we need saving?
Yeah, I mean, perhaps we do. We don't really know who the leader is at the moment, and we could be on borrowed time. So perhaps we do need
Lord Mouncer in to save the day.
Yeah, I mean,
answerable to no one.
Unelected.
I mean, Michael has to be Boris Johnson in this analogy, right? He's disappeared, but he's lurking in the background somewhere. We know he'll be back at some point. Gabby's Xmas has already asked in the comments, has Michael quit?
And a sad face too.
A sad face emoji. But I mean, I'm going to keep giving it a plug, but he was on the Stuart Webber podcast last week. So if you are missing the sound of Michael's voice, don't listen to him on the other podcast that he's doing. I'm not going to give you the name of that. Listen to last week's podcast after you've listened to this one, obviously. You can have an on the ball I don't know, marathon. Anyway, should we talk about some football? We will be checking in on the comments as just proved there and questions, and we'll probably need them more than ever this week. We're only up against Fulham versus Wolves on Monday Night Football, so come on, let's have your questions and help us out. So before that, let's get on with the headline act. Yep, it's been a long 48 hours to wait to relive it, but we are finally here. Norwich City beat QPR 1-0 on Saturday. Hwang's clinical finish was the decisive moment in the game. David McNally and Stuart Webber's first games at Norwich City finished 1-7 and 7-1. Ben Knapper started with Norwich City having 7 shots and 1 on target. So there's some nice symmetry for you. Ben, it wasn't particularly high quality. It wasn't particularly entertaining, but it was a win. Norwich City's first at Carrow Road since September. Fans seem to be split into kind of 2 camps as to whether that was just, it's nice to get a win on the board and the worries about the performance. So kind of where do you sorry, probably a sign that I need to stop talking. Where do you fall in that argument?
Well, I mean, I was thinking after the game actually, and knowing that I was coming on, how I was going to describe what I saw, and the best I could come up with was there was just some people out there and there was a football and stuff happened, but I couldn't really kind of pin anything to it or draw any conclusions. Yeah, as you said, obviously the quality of the match was very low. We saw a Queen's Park Rangers team who are, I think they're now 11 without a win, in the midst of clearly a style change under their new manager from compared to the previous regime. And a Norwich team who are also clearly low on confidence. And David Wagner spoke about that in his interesting post-match comments, I thought, about how a change of style is kind of their way out of this bad run of form or that we've been on. And I think actually his comments kind of didn't swerve my opinion. Obviously, anyone who's going to draw any long-term conclusions about Norwich City's quality and prospects this season on the basis of that performance and the fact that we've won 2 games in a row, it shouldn't be sniffed at, but they would be mistaken. I think there are clearly still a lot of issues to be had, but there are also, we kept a clean sheet. We won the game. We did what we needed to do. And I think you said, Steve, that people are split. I think there will always be those people who see the value in a win, no matter how you kind of win a game of football. And I think that view is very much one that you can sit behind. But I think as well there's still a long way to go, and I do have concerns about what might happen this week, given the increase in standard of the opposition, and certainly the type of football we're going to be faced against away from home. So yeah, things may look very different in a few days again, but I think I felt pretty good with David Wagner actually, because it's not easy, and I think he's honest when he speaks to the media. He's clearly popular with the players, and I think these 2 wins have kind of just given him a tiny bit of breathing space, even if the manner of certainly the win on Saturday was not really what any. We don't want to. We can't kind of say that's how we want to see our Norwich City team playing going forward, or whether we believe that's going to be successful going forward. But it was a kind of result where it's like, right, it's a foundation. Maybe now we can try and at least build something.
Yeah, and it's slightly unfortunate timing for Wagner that it comes about, a couple of weeks after Ben Knapper said that what he likes to see his teams playing is attacking, proactive football. I mean, to be fair, what sporting director is going to come in and say, I love defensive long ball stuff? But David Wagner, nobody gets turned on about the idea of XG against, but he did rightly make the point that, we had to tighten up, and we did. Unfortunately, it came with 38% possession. So yeah, I mean, I don't know where you fall on this, Zoe. There is a problem with Norwich City at the back this season. That is obvious by the fact that before Saturday we conceded the most goals of anyone. So do we just have to get to a point where at least we're not conceding before the results start to turn?
Yeah, I think I'm with Ben. Certainly in the fact that the last 2 games I think have been quite crucial for like the agony of what was going on before. I think last time I came on was after the Blackburn game, when we were all very upset about everything that was going on, and I think a lot of us felt quite sorry for Wagner, because it did feel like he was kind of being put out as a human shield. And whether he should be our manager long term or not, again, I agree with Ben that he's done so many positive things that he's certainly got a bit of credit in the bank for how he's handled himself and how he's clearly working very hard. So winning a couple of games in a row has at least stopped that side, the conversation about losing however many games in a row, tumbling down the table, all of these things. Very interesting, really, that the two options he seems to have at his disposal are kind of boring or fun, and that seems to be like what he's choosing between when he's refused to change formation all season. It's like that's not on the cards, but turning into some sort of anti-football kind of crew is on the cards, and I find that quite interesting. But yeah, we cannot move forward based on Saturday, like doing what we did on Saturday for a number of reasons, but it wasn't even that effective against QPR. Like, yes, they didn't have chance after chance, but certainly they were in the game. And I think, losing any of your kind of attacking will is a bit dangerous against other opposition. And you've just got to score goals in this league. That is the best way of getting out of it, is scoring and scoring and scoring. And that was what we were good at the start of the season, and now we can't lose sight of that, because trying to win each game 1-0 is probably not going to get us anywhere, because I'm not sure we're capable of it.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously the XG point does come with the caveat that QPR were pretty toothless. I think Wagner said after the game they can cause big problems in the transition. I can't think of a team that would cause you fewer problems in the transition, really. They looked like they were just there to have a nice time and play football a bit, but didn't actually have any intention of scoring. Ben, of all the kind of people that were out there kicking a ball around, the one time when two managed to combine to create something pretty memorable was the goal. I mean, that was, it was kind of, if David Wagner could pick how a Wagner team was going to score a goal, it feels like that it wouldn't be far from that.
Yep, central midfielder dropping deep, pinging probably like a 10% ball over the top to a striker. It's funny because about 10 seconds before that happened, I was bemoaning how deep both Ashley Barnes and Hwanging were. And then Hwang timed his run to perfection from this ball. And, as dire as that game was as a spectacle, that moment was great. Like, it was a lovely touch, a really composed finish. And yeah, you're right. It was the perfect David Wagner Norwich City goal.
Zoe, what did you think? I like the fact that Hwang shushed the NMP afterwards as well, as if to. I mean, I think we know that that there are external things going on that we don't need to talk about on this podcast. But I think the irony of him shushing the Norwich crowd on Saturday wasn't particularly lost on me either.
No, and it was 10 seconds of quality in the rest of the 94 minutes of absolute dirge. I think it's interesting because, like, one thing that struck me is it felt like everyone was trying really hard. Like, it felt like the crowd were trying pretty hard, getting some sort of Ipswich themed songs going ahead of the derby. And like that, it was quite a, given the game and given the situation, it was quite a decent atmosphere compared to some of the home games of the last couple of years. But and you could see that the players were really, really trying. I think the problem is that, like, it shouldn't be that hard for either players or fans to get up and to, the players shouldn't have had to work that hard against a team that had just come along for a nice day out. It shouldn't have been like that, and it shouldn't be that hard for the fans to try and create some emotion by thinking about the derby, which we've not played for several years, and we're in a kind of not the greatest position to win it again this year. So I really admired the effort from both sides, but it felt like too much effort for what it should be.
Yeah. I think, like, I don't know, like, and this seems to have been a problem under David Wagner's Norwich City, like, even at the times when we were doing well, and we were some of the division's top scorers earlier in the season. But it's that, for me, it's that kind of, how are we trying to control the game? How are we trying to score a goal? There doesn't seem to be an obvious kind of strategy with those things. And I think with that, you really struggle to build up momentum, build up atmosphere, build up pressure. And this is why QPR, like, we conceded 62% of possession to a team who are very, very low on confidence and really couldn't be in kind of a worse position psychologically or in the table, even though they're not bottom. So yeah, for me, it's that kind of, and that's why. And look, Wagner says, right, we start here and then we build. As the confidence builds, the quality builds, and maybe the style of play and how we approach games is more evident and more positive. But I think as well, even if you think back to how we've scored our goals this season and where they've come from on the pitch, it has often been moments of individual quality, which we do have. We still have some attacking players who would get into most teams in this division, but we haven't got that identifiable way of trying to break down the opposition. And as Zoe said, we haven't tried anything different to what we've been doing all season in terms of system or approach. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Given that, if what David Wagner said, like a couple of wins, maybe we're a bit, and keeping a clean sheet is a big thing as well. I think, don't know if you guys saw Danny Bart at the end, like give it the big one to the South Stand when the final whistle went. Those kind of things can breed that confidence, but I'm skeptical as to whether, like, if we sat around on this virtual call in a few days' time after these two matches, whether we're going to feel the same, whether that confidence is going to snowball into something more.
Yeah, and I think I agree. The keeping a clean sheet, I think it was the first in 8 games or 7 or 8 games, was important, but the feeling I had after this game was, as toothless as QPR were, they could and maybe should have had a goal at the end. And it was the same with the Stoke game that we won 1-0. I think maybe it was Haksabanovic. This had a chance which he basically missed the ball standing in front of the goal, and that could have easily been 1-1. Birmingham was a little bit more comfortable, but I think Miyoshi hit the bar. No team is going to go 90 minutes. Or it's rare to go 90 minutes without a side creating a big chance, but those chances kind of falling at the end of the game do kind of make you think that could have played out slightly differently. But yes, a clean sheet for the worst goalkeeper signing in the Stuart Webber era is it's nice for him. It's nice for Danny Bart, and it does give us something to build on. Up top, I know we've talked about Hwang. There are options again. Barnes is back. Whether he'll feature on Tuesday in the starting lineup, I don't know. David Wagner obviously loves him, Zoe. But to have him and Ida and Hwang, at least you've got something coming off the bench there. It feels like there's a little bit more strength in depth returning.
It was really good to have Barnes back. Not getting carried away with how much impact he can have, but just a bit of character as well on the pitch. The fact that he played a full 90 after coming back from his injury as well was pretty impressive. He kind of looked wild with tiredness by the end of it. Like his hair looked like it was going to fall off his head with just exhaustion. And just as he was on his last legs, he just sort of had a bit of a scrap just to keep him going. Like, yeah, this will get me through to the final whistle. And I like a bit of that. I think it really shows that although he didn't have as much of an impact after Sargent was injured when he was playing, he certainly is the man that this role was created for within this team. And, that having him as an option, he's a leader as well, really, beside the point, but watching him come out with his little mascot at the start, like he's chatting away to, having a really good time. And, it's really nice to see stuff like that. Good to have him back. Good to have a few choices. I thought Ida looked like he was raring to go when he came on, point to prove. And Hwang runs around a lot. His industry is, it's really good. He must cover quite a lot of ground. Good to have some options. Still waiting for that big one to come back, though.
Yes. Yeah. It would have been the ultimate tribute to Sean Dyche, wouldn't it, if Barnes's hair had just fallen out as he was booting someone in the corner flag at the end. That would have been fantastic. What the Barnes return did signal was the oldest start. I mean, you know, if any more proof were needed that I need another hobby, I have stats going back 40 years on the average age of our lineups. And this is the oldest one I think we've had. First one that's been over 30. I mean, I wonder if that helps.
Hang on, well, the oldest lineup we've had for 40 years.
Yeah, in the oldest starting 11. I mean, 8 of the 11 were over 30. So when your fourth youngest player is Christian Fasnacht, who looked very much like a man in his 30s on Saturday. I don't know what that's. I mean, I think it probably indicates it's partly that they were the players available and that our young players weren't available. So there's some element of randomness about it. But maybe that Wagner is kind of going back to the tried and trusted a little bit, or valuing the experience. Ben, I mean, I don't know if we can read that much into it, but it to some extent it may have helped with that, with that experience on the pitch for them to see it out in a kind of, experienced way.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if we can draw any sort of conclusions really about how...
I think that spiel probably shows that we definitely can't.
But it's interesting, and like the experience of Danny Bart and Shane Duffy, and like, I don't know, keeping that clean sheet. Would that have happened if we'd have had a younger player in defence? I'm trying to kind of make a point here, which I'm not sure I really believe in. But look, we know it's a bit of an anomaly. Hopefully, some younger players will come back, and that average age will go down again. But I think certainly with our recruitment, like David Wagner has shown that he values experience a lot, and certainly in this division, it can be very important. So I think we'll see. Like, I'd be concerned if we continue to just cast aside our young talents in favour of these geriatrics, relative football geriatrics. But yeah.
They do say your 30s are the new 20s. So maybe we're just starting a trend that will just follow.
Who says? Is it people in their 30s that say?
Yeah,
that?
I would definitely say that. So yeah, all these men are very young, in my opinion. So good luck to them.
I mean, I absolutely wouldn't say that. I feel incredibly drawn now that I'm in my 30s, but that's a separate conversation. Another thing, only 3 players that played under Daniel Farker in that starting lineup as well, I think. Ian Newlis, Kenny McLean, and
Onel.
And Onel, yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Of course. Who, yes, as referenced in the intro, just that corner routine.
Unbelievable.
Fantastic.
Like, the amount, like, everybody in the ground was laughing, but for like a really long time. Like, when you hear sometimes of people like, ooh, oh. But it was just like for about 20 seconds. It was just, it was brilliant. It was that, and the 3 separate occasions where 2 people from the same team ran into each other at some point during the game were really the highlights of the entire occasion. I thought it really summed it up.
There was a fantastic moment as well, just a passage of play where I think it was in the second half, and a Norwich player headed a ball out that Long really should have caught. It then came out to a QPR defender, who I think was maybe Kenneth Parle, who just headed it straight up in the air, and we could have started an attack, but Onel just miscontrolled the ball horribly. I just thought that kind of sums up what we're watching today.
I just can't believe how many yellow cards there were as well for a game that had pretty much no edge at all. Somehow there were 6 yellow cards, I think.
Were there 6? God,
yeah.
I can't remember any of them.
It was kind of like a PG kind of game where, like, there was a few people like posturing and trying to get a bit aggro, but like at sort of very much at arm's length. Like, there was never any danger of them actually having a proper scrap. I don't know whether they were trying to manufacture some sort of like edge to the game where it wasn't existing.
A sort of scrappy do type attempt at aggro where we can't really be bothered, and we know no one's going to get hurt from this, but let's look like we care at least.
Yeah, keep us warm, that sort of thing. Yeah. Also, one fun thing that I don't know if, again, this was a keeping warm moment, but in the second half, when I think QPR had made a double substitution, and then I think we made our first, I think, when Hwang went off. Elias Chair was quite near me on the touchline, and I don't know whether he'd sort of zoned out or whatever, but when they announced that Hwang was going off and Anida was coming on, he was just clapping, just started clapping. It's like, well played, good goal. So I don't know whether he thought it was another QPR sub or what, but yeah, just having a clap.
I mean, I thought he looked very good, actually. So, I mean, that's praise indeed for Hwang. Maybe he was clapping Ida coming on. Well, maybe he saw when Ida went off a few weeks ago against Borough and got booed and thought, there's a man who...
needs some confidence.
Needs some love.
Maybe he's a fan of the youth. That's... He was like, finally, they're bringing someone young on.
Yeah, the average age is coming down significantly with the substitution. That is to be congratulated.
Yeah, that's something that will be discussed at length on a podcast on Monday, no doubt. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is there anything else to add on that game, or shall I move on to things where Zoe looked like there might be?
Well, it's not really on. This may be a nice segue into things we're not going to talk about.
Go on then, yeah, let's segue, because I hate segueing into it.
You know when teams can be defined by like one player, like they really sort of, everything that is good. Well, everything that you could say about this team is sort of summed up in this one player. It was kind of occurring to me on Saturday that as much as we have probably all resisted it over the years, I think we are Kenny McLean. And he is, and in many good ways as well as bad, but I think we are inextricably linked with Kenny, and he is our defining player now. He perhaps hasn't always been, but that kind of apologetic, slightly erratic, inconsistent, occasional success. Like, I don't know. Kenny is us and we are Kenny. That's what I've decided.
I agree, actually. I think he does embody like a David Wagner Norwich City team. I think like tries really hard, prone to the regular catastrophic mistake leading to a clear opportunity or even a goal. Always there.
Yeah, won't go away.
Yeah. It's a wonder he wasn't made captain years ago, really. I mean, now you've said it, he's about as Norwich City as you can get, really, in a player. I think we've had, and I think it's that he will always be at a certain level, and that level is upper end championship player. It doesn't matter whether he's playing in a lower end championship team or a team that's struggling horribly in the Premier League. He will always be at that level in a kind of sort of Cameron Jerome type way. I don't know if we can maybe throwing Russell Martin into that is a little bit harsh, but yeah, and all we want is to see him, drunk wearing the mayor's hat on the balcony of City Hall again. But I mean, he's here for a long time still. I think he's here till 2026, isn't he? So that might be enough time for another title push.
I think if he were to, I was just going to say, if he was to sit on the terraces as well, I think he would behave in a way quite similar, actually, to the kind of the unique way that some Norwich fans behave at football. I don't know, just kind of a bit whingy, sort of a bit detached, and then kind of like passages of real emotion during the game as well. Get a Twix out of his inside pocket, that kind of thing. I don't know, just imagine him taking in a game in the way that a lot of people around me do.
Yeah. But he loves the Bovril as well. I bet Kenny's all about the Bovril.
I love the idea of him, despite having played under Farker, after a couple of games in the stands, he's just going, get it forward! Just the same as everyone else around him. That would be great. To be fair, though, best player on Saturday, right? I mean, I think we should be, as much as we like to occasionally laugh at Kenny, we are lucky to have him at the moment, I think.
And we scored by getting it forward, so
yeah, that's true.
Indeed, get it forward.
Yeah, what the hell do I know? Kenny was right. I'm sensing that the Wagner out vibes are not as strong tonight as they are when Dan's on the pod, to be fair. But I mean, I guess 2 wins in a row, it feels slightly odd to be talking about the manager's job, but I think obviously we've alluded to the performances. Do we have a better idea, Ben, after the next 2 away games as to where he's going to be long term? I mean, obviously the 12-month rolling contract continues to roll, so that really has no bearing on anything. But new sporting director, slight uncertainty. I mean, I don't know where we are. I've lost track, to be honest. So what do you think?
I think Ben Knapper strikes me as the kind of guy who's going to be methodical and give himself time and not rush into any decisions, not be driven by ego, not try and kind of stamp his authority with a decision like that so soon. I think he will assess the evidence before him over a period of weeks, knowing full well that we're still fairly early in the season. We have a transfer window still to come. We're not in a terrible position. We're not in a desperate position. We're in a position where David Wagner could meander through to the transfer window, and we might be in roughly the same place. I think, from what I understand, there's more likely to be quite high turnover with the playing staff maybe in January, more so than maybe the manager. Obviously, it's dependent on results, and there's going to become a point where if performances and results continue to have gone the way that they were before the last 2 matches, then Knapper's hand will be, he will have to make that decision. But I think he's certainly, and from what Michael was saying as well about him from his meeting with him on the pod last week, he's somebody who's going to just do what is necessary. And as the point was made on the pod last week, he's at a club where he will be afforded the autonomy and the time to make his decisions in that way. So again, if we have 2 really, really terrible away performances and defeats in the next few days, then the pressure will ramp up again. But my sense is that there are other kind of things going on as well at the football club, and obviously primarily a new sporting director finding his feet in his first time in that role, not just at a new club as well. So yeah, we'll I think it's a case of wait and see.
Yeah. Nice motorbike sound effect in there. Just imagine Knapper speeding off to the training ground to get his January deals done. Zoe, I mean, I suppose to take a positive, the injury crisis appears to be easing. Gunn and Forshaw back in training after Watford, Hanley after Bristol City, so David Wagner said today. So there's some signs for optimism potentially ahead of that Ipswich game, which we are not gonna talk about that in depth today, but is looming large in 4 weeks' time.
I think we've really been hit by the injuries, and it will be a nice psychological boost to have quite a lot of those players back. I think Saturday again showed that we miss Rowe, if even for his youthful enthusiasm and exuberance, and just offering a little bit of something different. And really the reason to go to the football as well. He has been this shining beacon amid a season that has had some very dark patches so far. And I think, to go and to watch a young player thrive and really having a great time of it has been a really big, joyful element of this season so far. So the sooner he's back and fit and raring to go, the better. Obviously, it kind of feels like all the other players completely insignificant compared to whenever Sargent is going to come back. It's kind of like we can have every single other player fit, but without Sargent, nothing will work. It's going to be quite funny if he does come back and we don't automatically turn back into a side that's sort of trouncing other teams and sort of outplaying them, because then we will be a bit stuck, I think. So yeah, good to see some of them coming back, especially pleased for Hanley after that, really bad injury. And what is nice is that you see so many of them sitting in what I've now sort of called the sick pen next to the dugout during the home games, where that you can always see Sargent's head, quite easy to spot, and just fewer and fewer of them in the sick pen as time goes on. So that's quite nice.
Yeah, let's hope Sargent's hair doesn't start falling out, because that would be sad. A lot more disastrous.
He'd be a funny bald man, wouldn't he?
What would they do if someone's hair fell out on the pitch? Would they scoop it up and take it away, or would it just kind of be
Would you need the physio on?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's not like a concussion really, is it? Where you'd have to have somebody on and have to stop the game. It would be a bit worrying though.
If all of your hair fell out during a football match, would you be able to continue with the same focus as you had been playing before? Surely.
I feel like Ashley Barnes would.
Yes.
Because he is kind of on that way already, right? So I think
it makes the decision for him, doesn't it? That he really needs to make sooner or later.
Whereas Josh Sargent, I mean, that would be shocking.
I'd like to see how I looked, I think, because if I had a big shiny bald head and was playing in front of 25,000 people, I'd probably get a bit self-conscious. But then I don't know, you can't really ask to be taken off for that, can you? You're having a good game, you can't ask for the
Sargent might start completely misjudging headers by 3 inches because he's not quite jumped far enough for his new baldness to make contact with the ball. It's all sorts could go wrong.
Was it Fellaini who used to be? I don't know. I used to think his hair used to help him in the air, which of course is absolute nonsense. But
it can be a superpower. Your hair puts people off, doesn't it?
Yeah. Speaking of stupid injuries as well, that brings us nicely on to Shemi Poaheta, and credit Dan for spotting this. David Wagner saying post-match that something landed on his toe.
It had fallen on his toe.
Something had fallen on his toe. So not that he dropped something. Yeah, maybe his hair. Maybe, his hair looks quite heavy.
Quite a lot of gel, a lot of
solid hair.
Yeah, it would just fall off in one lump. I mean, we'll know if he turns up bald, then I think we can safely put those two things together. So he is a doubt for Tuesday, but I mean, what the hell has caused that? What could you possibly? I've dropped my phone on my foot a few times, and that's painful, but I don't think it's enough to rule me out of a.
Who was the Stoke player that tripped over his dog on the stairs and was out for ages? This was a long time ago. I feel like
there are a couple of examples, aren't there? I think someone had a jar of peanut butter or something that fell on their foot. Do you reckon he controlled whatever it was, or do you reckon it just bounced off?
Seems unlikely.
Well, I was thinking. I mean, he's quite fast, isn't he? So I don't know whether but then you would think that means he walks with his head down. I mean, I know it's not fast all the time, but I just don't understand.
What height did the thing fall from?
Yeah,
that's another question.
Could have been
has he got a case for industrial action? Maybe if it happened to Colney, is he going to sue the club and drain it of its very limited resources anyway?
Where there's blame, there's a claim. I think it was. I think the Spain goalkeeper, Canizares, I seem to remember he dropped a bottle of aftershave on his foot and missed an entire World Cup for it. So
it smelled great, though. It did smell fantastic.
Yeah, every cloud. I mean, I think it was a dereliction of duty of the journalist in that room not to have at least asked what it was. And maybe we'll never know. Or maybe it'll be a long read with Michael in the Athletic one day.
I knew there was a famous one. It's Dave Besson, who had his career ended by a jar of salad cream.
Career ended? That sounds like some kind of scandal took place with this. But I'm assuming the jar caused the injury.
Kiss and tell from the jar.
Yeah, I mean, he dropped the jar on his foot, severing tendons in his big toe.
Oh my god!
Wow.
There we go.
It's been a while since salad cream was sold in jars as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Is mayo? Is that still sold in mayonnaise? Is that still sold in jars? It is, isn't it?
If you want it to be, yeah.
Hellman's. That's that. You can get that in a jar.
Just ask Dave Besson, mate. I bet he's not buying it. I bet he's buying it.
Yeah, well, he'll be as relieved as anyone that it's no longer in jars. I feel like we've strayed off topic slightly there. On Winger Watch, Christoph Schollis scored for Fortuna Dusseldorf. Again, at the weekend, seems to be getting a lot of people very excited.
I saw Wagner's quotes today about him. Very interesting.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's one of those fool me once type things, but three different managers. I think I said this on the podcast last week. 3 different managers. He's not really played well under any of them. I fear he may be one of those that's never good at Norwich City and might be good elsewhere, but it's just not the right environment for him.
It was Liam Lawrence that fell over his dog on the stairs.
Was it?
Ankle injury, out of action for 2 months.
Excellent. I was beginning to not believe you purely because I googled Stoke dog stairs and got an advert for Aldi's new pet stairs product, which means your dog won't have to jump up onto the sofa. But there we go, Liam Lawrence. All your questions answered about freak injuries. I feel like David James had a weird injury as well, like watching the telly. We'll come back to it. I feel like we have done freak injuries now. The AGM is on Thursday. Mark Atanasio is going to be there. I mean, does anyone care about that other than Michael? No, great.
I didn't even know it was happening. So yeah.
No, me neither.
No.
We haven't got any money. Fans are going to be annoyed. Fill in any other gaps, I guess. And in slightly more joyous news, Jeffman98 says the biggest cheer on Saturday was at halftime when the guy won the Las Palmas shirt. I mean, we are on Crossbar Challenge watch this season. Possibly the best bit of, other than the goal, maybe the best bit of skill that was on offer on Saturday, actually. So yeah, just kind of went beyond a mere hot dog and won
A shirt of a team he does not support. What more could you want?
Yeah, which can be bought in shops, to be honest. So yes, well done to whatever your name was. Great work. And I mean, it's a holiday to Tampa, isn't it? We'll I don't know what we'll do.
Well, Gran Canaria, not Tampa. We've moved on from Tampa.
Oh, have we? Oh,
Yeah.
Are we no longer associated with Tampa at all?
No.
It's Gran Canaria now, mate. Have you seen
Gran
the
Canaria or
advertising
bust.
hoardings?
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
You'd think I'd be across our commercial.
There's also an advert just saying just win cash. There's nothing else. Just win cash. Kind of stooped low, haven't we?
Did you see Captain Canary and the Las Palmas Canary challenged each other on social media to do some various penalty-taking challenges? And Captain Canary emerged victorious. So a win's a win. Got to take it.
I think that's going to be the title of this podcast episode. A win is a win. Whether it's against QPR or against a Canary from Las Palmas, a win is still a win.
How old is Captain? Can we pin like an age on Captain Canary to bring our average age up even more if he like plays in a match? How long has he been around?
He's surely not as old as 30.
I mean, he's been around at least as long as I have at the club, and I started going in 2001. So that makes him older than Jonathan Rowe, I think.
Okay.
I think he's younger than Thiago Silva.
Older than Jonathan Rowe, but younger than Thiago Silva. What a wonderful bracket to be in.
That's quite a big delta.
Most footballers.
Yeah, if anyone knows when Captain Canary made his debut for Norwich City, then please write in. He's doing a sterling job in goal. Although I don't know if anybody saw at halftime the lad who missed his penalty and absolutely belted it towards the top corner. He looked so devastated when he came off of
character building. He needs to learn from it. Yeah,
well, yeah. He'll never make it in the game. He'll never make it in Norwich City if he can't learn to deal with failure. That's for sure. It's the most devastated I've seen anyone on that pitch since we got relegated in 2020-21, with all the players sitting on the pitch in an empty stadium. Anyway, this was supposed to be a tight 45, and we're now at 43 and a half minutes. So let's talk about the week ahead.
This is almost fantasy football.
Yep, it's almost fantasy football. We're on a winning streak and we are playing fantasy football right now. So it's about time we're tested with a couple of tough away games. It's Vicarage Road and Watford tomorrow night. And then we head, along with the Sky cameras, to Bristol City on Sunday afternoon. This podcast will be back on December the 11th after the Preston home game. Zoe, let's have a look at Tuesday first of all. And when I say Tuesday, I mean tomorrow, of course. I guess the two things about Watford in recent years, as far as we're concerned, is that they basically mirrored what we've done, the idiots. And they nearly always beat us. I mean, basically, it's only Josh Sargent that's got any good memories of Vicarage Road, I think. In terms of the team, I suppose we've talked about Jonathan Rowe. It sort of feels like the state of his heel could be quite important for this one. How optimistic are you feeling with or without him?
Yeah, I don't think I ever feel optimistic about us playing Watford. Like you say, it does feel like we just always lose. Even when we're really good, it feels like we always lose to them. And yeah, it's hard to get too excited. It feels like bad things happen when we go to Vicarage Road, apart from the Josh Sargent night, which was the most genuinely shocked I think I've ever seen Jamie Carragher look at enjoying a game of football.
Great wife banter afterwards as
well.
well.
Clearly was taken there under duress and actually ended up enjoying himself, which I think was a great shock to him. But yeah, it's difficult to feel too positive about it. But as you say, they've been basically even more of a kind of wreck than us this season. I think it feels like, although we've got a very similar amount of points, it feels like they haven't quite had as many patches of, well, like the initial patch of the season that we had that was very positive. It feels like, they're so up and down. So yeah, I will watch through sort of my fingers tomorrow, probably, just to see how we come through.
Well, here's a positive stat for you. We're actually on a longer away goal scoring streak at the moment than at any time under Daniel Farker, which I sort of struggle to believe myself. 15 games. Last time we had gone that long was the Paul Lambert years. Ben, can you remember the last time we failed to score away from home? I'll give you a clue if you want it.
Let me have a think. That's not great for a podcast, is it?
No, well, I have put you on the spot with a question that I didn't tell you I was going to ask. If I tell you that you were there, would that help?
Oh, yes, I will. Yeah, okay. Stoke City 0, Norwich City 0.
Stoke City 0, Norwich City 0. Yeah, that was the last time we failed to score.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to compare in terms of the worst football matches I've ever been to, like Saturday and that match. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah, there we go. And at least, well, I think maybe that one was worse. At least we had the goal on Saturday. So yeah, I mean, goals guaranteed, right? But no. Well, are we going to expect to see Barnes in the lineup again? We were talking about having options up top, but that 90 minutes did seem to take a lot out of him. So if no Barnes, then where does that leave us?
It'll be Hwanging. Either, or maybe he might just do a Gibbs.
A Gibbs.
Yeah, I feel like that would possibly threaten the 15-game goal-scoring run if we play seemingly a defensive midfielder up front again. So how optimistic are you feeling for this one, Benny? I mean, again, I guess if Rowe comes back, then that will help quite a lot, but even still,
yeah, I think I'm similar to Zoe in my sentiments towards this fixture and Bristol City away as well. Actually, I just don't enjoy those two away fixtures from the time when I worked at the club, when I used to go there, and also just whenever we play these matches, I just don't enjoy them. Even though, like Watford away, we have had some results there in the last few years. I went to that game last year, actually, and we lost that one, didn't we? Sargent scored again. Yeah, I think they've picked up a little bit under Ishmael. I think he has changed the style of the team, which is interesting because he is somebody who's quite known for a distinctive style of kind of direct kind of football. And I think they obviously had a really bad start to the season, didn't he? And somehow he didn't get sacked. So yeah, I'm fearing it. I feel like it will be Ida and Hwang, just because we want to try and build that momentum, and like having another option there would be a much more defensive option, and I feel like that would be a kind of signal that we're not going to try and build on what we've achieved in the last two matches. So yeah, like we'll see how it goes. I think it's a tough place to go. However well, kind of whatever shape Watford are in, I would come out of there with a point tomorrow night. I think we'd all be happy.
Oh, I think I would. Yes.
Yes.
I'll take a boring Stoke away 0-0, to be honest, right now. Jamal Lewis as well, playing for Watford. A kind of classic case of grass isn't always greener. Somebody who's actually regressed further down the table than even Norwich City have in the last few years. And then Sunday is, I suppose, interesting to the fact that it's Liam Manning at Bristol City, who I think is a Norwich City fan. Is that right?
Well, Dan said this on Twitter and then was corrected. He's from Norwich. He's from Norwich,
okay.
But is it unknown whether he
hates the club?
Judas.
Is he one of those people that grew up here in the 90s and supported Man United? You know, like most people seem to at that time.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's like a Norwich United fan or something.
Yeah, a big Deeren boy. Yeah, I mean, again, I think they've picked up and won at the weekend, so that could be fun. I think, was it 11th against 13th live on Sky? So
I don't think it is on the telly.
Is it not?
No, I thought it was. It must be, but I don't think it is. I think it was just moved because of a potential clash at Ashton Gate. So clearly got take that there or something. So moved it, but I don't think it. Well, it's certainly not on Sky. I don't think.
Oh, well, apologies for getting people's hopes up, and apologies for criticising the Sky schedulers, who clearly had more sense than I thought. I think they play rugby, don't they, at Bristol? So maybe, I mean, that in and of itself is an outrage that a football match could be moved for rugby, but
they wouldn't do that on the same weekend, though, would they? Surely.
You would think not. Clearly, none of us know. But
let's keep deliberating for the next 20 minutes.
We'll see. I the same. I don't hold out too much hope for wins, but who knows? I didn't for Cardiff away either. So, yes, Jeff Mann says rugby match at Ashton Gate on the Saturday. Can't wait to see the state of the pitch. Well, maybe it'll help with our newfound non-possession based game. And Wagner can stick it to Ben Knapper again. Right, well, I think having looked forward, we can now ask if there's any other business. I'm just rifling through the comments. Jamie Ward has said, if it wasn't for the injuries this season, we would easily be in that top six and closer to that lot down the road. It's been tough with losing so many key players. I mean, the burden on Josh Sargent just grows and grows and grows. And again, with reference to Ipswich, Owen says, greetings from the Emerald Isle. So greetings, Owen. Whatever the season may bring, I believe Ashley Barnes will be a Derby Day hero, OTBC. Thank you, Owen in Dublin. Yeah, weirdly, I can see that.
Yeah, almost. Although what's going to constitute a Derby Day hero for this match, I'm not really sure. I don't know.
At least 5-0, I would imagine, minimum.
Maybe just all his hair falling out. That
with excitement.
Yeah, we lost 3-0, but at least Ashley Barnes protested by leaving his wig on the pitch or something.
He went bald for the cause.
Yeah,
bald for the cause.
And on that note, I think we can say that that's probably all for today's On the Ball, the Norwich City podcast that still thinks that the best overhead kick in Premier League history was Cameron Jerome versus Palace, obviously. Make sure you subscribe to On the Ball if you haven't already. It is free on your usual player. Just search On the Ball Norwich City on your preferred social platform. Ratings and reviews wherever prompted, always hugely appreciated. And if you want to get in touch with any questions, you can send me a direct message, because I've taken Michael off it now, on Twitter at NCFCnumbers. So a massive thank you to our two guests tonight. Ben, great to have you back on. Hope you enjoyed it.
I did enjoy it very much. Thank you both. Let's do it again soon.
Yes, we'll try and get you on for a better game. I mean, you keep watching the bad ones, so we'll get you on. If there are any better games, we'll try and get you on for them. And Zoe, thank you very much as ever.
Pleasure as always.
Excellent. Well, the only people left to thank are everyone for listening. Whether you were live or listening back, our next pod will be post Preston North End on the 11th of December, just 5 days before the aforementioned East Anglian derby. We really might need to mind the danger for that one, but until then, I'll say it anyway, never mind the danger.